I think TikTok is massively underrated for podcasters. Before I started my podcast on TikTok, I did heaps of research to figure out who else was doing this. It took me hours, and I found like 2 or 3 accounts that are doing this. So it's massively underrated. It is a lot of work, but like as I mentioned, I think like at least 90% of my audience has come through there.
This Audience Summit is brought to you in partnership with Podcast Notes, the best ideas from the world's best podcasts in minutes. Hey, Byron, welcome to the Grow Your Podcast Audience Summit brought to you by the Lewis and Kyle Show. We're excited to chat with you today.
Thanks, guys. Really excited to have this chat.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you on as a contributor. So real quick, for those listening or watching or wherever they are who aren't familiar with yourself and your show, could you give a little personal introduction and talk about your podcast, the when and why you started it and what the mission is?
Yeah, sure. So I started my podcast back in 2019, about a year ago today, so October 2019. And it's called Driven Young, and it's aimed at educating and inspiring the younger generation with practical life skills I think we should have learned in school. And I've really got a specific audience. I've niched it down to about 15 to 22. Obviously, there could be some people a little bit older, a little bit younger, but that's really who I'm targeting. And yeah, I just bring on guests who I think are really cool and have valuable stories or knowledge that they can share with the younger generation. We cover topics like personal finance, nutrition. We just do a lot of mindset stuff, business and stuff, just a whole bunch of things I think we should have been learning in school.
Yeah, I think the introduction that you've had produced for your show is so great, and it explains your mission so well. Give the backdrop of the education system and the inefficiencies of and kind of why you're coming in to fill that gap. And I think for the episodes I've listened to, you've done a really good job of that.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wrote that. I spent like an hour, and I was just like, how can I try get across to someone who hasn't listened to the show? It's like the first time they're listening, how can I try to get across what the show is in 30 seconds or whatever? And so, yeah, I really appreciate that. I really, really like my new intro because I changed it probably a few months ago to the new one that you've heard.
Yeah, it sounds great. And it just establishes the credibility right off the bat. But real quick, first question for you. What has been the most effective marketing channel for growing your show, and how have you used it?
Yeah, so I mean, this is such an easy answer for me. Honestly, I think almost 100% of my audience comes through TikTok. So I do a video podcast, which means I film all my episodes and then I cut that up into little tiny bite-sized pieces and I post those clips on TikTok. And every single person who reaches out to me starts off by saying, hey, Byron, found your show on TikTok, blah, blah, blah. So that's been the biggest channel for me by a long shot. And yeah, it's just been huge for me. So yeah, that's kind of a video strategy. And it's also something that I know a lot of people aren't using, which means it's a bit of a blue ocean for me. And it's just been, game changer.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that audience is sort of cheap in terms of the the effort that you have to put out to collect more and more people on that platform, and it all compounds too. We've been looking at TikTok. It's something that we're trying to do, but I need to check out your channel and see what you've done to attract people. But what are some underrated tactics that you've used to attract listeners to your show?
It's probably this.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, you go.
I was going to say whether on TikTok or other platforms.
Yeah, it's probably the same answer, right? Because I think TikTok is massively underrated for podcasters. Before I started my podcast on TikTok, I did heaps of research to figure out who else was doing this. It took me hours, and I found like 2 or 3 accounts that are doing this. So it's massively underrated. It is a lot of work, but like as I mentioned, I think like at least 90% of my audience has come through there. But I mean, within that strategy, it's the video strategy. So I think an underrated tactic is taking filming your entire podcast and then cutting that up into tiny little bits, which you need to distribute across social media and, gain a following and send people to the podcast via that video. So I think that's massively underrated. Even though a lot of people are doing it, I don't think enough people are doing it. And it's a good way to build not just your podcast brand, but also your personal brand as well at the same time.
No, that's great. Third question for you. How have you converted listeners into fans? So you've attracted a large reach, using TikTok and these other platforms to get a lot of attention. But in what ways, once you've gotten people through the door, have you kept them coming back?
Yeah. So once I get into the podcast, at the beginning of every episode, I encourage them to DM me on Instagram. Like I say that every single episode, and I get heaps of DMs now. And I've sat down with like 20 or 30 of my fans or people listening to the show, and I've just had conversations with them. So I've actually been working on a program for young people, and I wanted to have a chat with heaps of people to see what their problems are. And so just via that, I've had chats with them. I respond to every single DM, and I respond more than just, hey, thanks. I actually have a conversation with them. So lately I've been spending like an hour a day every morning just going through DMs and just having conversations with people. And because I'm still got, I'm not massive, so I'm getting, a bunch of DMs, but I'm not getting hundreds and hundreds where I'm, can't maintain it. So yeah, I think it's just having conversations with people and, bringing on guests which people want. I know people are like, hey, can we cover this certain topic? So I'll like, yeah, let's do it. And I'll bring on guests around that certain topic. Yeah, it's definitely been a big one for me.
Yeah. And I would say that from this audience summit, if we were to put like top 3 takeaways or top 3 patterns that interacting directly with your audience on a consistent basis, whether it be in DMs or comments and just doing that consistently and like putting that effort that most people wouldn't put in.
Yeah.
It has been something that's come up over and over and over again. So I can tell you that yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's fun. I love talking with people.
So 4th question for you. If you could start your show over again, what would you do differently now to have grown it more effectively?
Oh man, I would have gone on TikTok straight away. I didn't get on TikTok for like 6 to 8 months. And I had virtually no growth, just very, very little, 50, 40 listeners or whatever. And yeah, and I launched TikTok like 3 months ago. And so for me, that was massive. I would just like, yeah, get on there a lot earlier. I was posting on Instagram and Facebook, but like there's almost no organic reach there compared to TikTok especially. So that was, yeah, I'd definitely get on that a lot earlier. Otherwise, yeah, I don't think there's too much I would do differently because I did a lot of preparation before launching the show. Maybe just interview people who weren't as high up. I found, like, as you mentioned, some of the episodes you've listened to, they're just some of my closest friends. They're just people I meet. It's not like I'm going after massive, huge CEOs. And so having that mindset of just interviewing cool people that I come across has actually been the best episodes. Whereas I think a lot of podcasters, myself included, when they start, go, oh, I want to get the biggest CEOs. I want to get all these big people who have a huge following. But in my case, they haven't been the best episodes, just the ones where genuine connections have been.
Yeah, that's something that we can relate to as well. A lot of people have asked us, what's your favorite episode? And then they kind of, before Kyle answers, they interject whatever X biggest name, most recognizable we've had on. And we're like, well, that one was awesome, but we've learned the most from the people, maybe 2 to 3 steps ahead of us. Because they directly understand the problems that we're having. And
dude, exactly. And that's why I've been bringing on a lot of younger guests lately. Like I've had all my latest guests have been like in their 20s, early 20s. And I've had 18-year-olds. Like I'm just bringing on so many young people because they're just a few steps ahead as opposed to someone who's 50 or something. It is like 1,000 steps ahead.
Exactly. So, and that's why, the episodes I chose to listen to and research for this were the ones kind of in that demographic as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's a really cool mindset shift that I kind of had. And obviously you've realized the same thing, which is awesome.
Definitely. Last question for the summit. I'm not sure if you've been doing exclusively organic promotion, but if we gave you $1,000 to market your show, how would you spend the money?
Oh man, yeah, I pretty much I've been doing exclusively organic. I'm very experienced in Facebook ads, but I don't think I would use Facebook ads. I'd probably use that money to outsource to like an editor who can just up the quality of my videos and can like really like, because I could be posting 10 videos a day on TikTok because from one episode I get like 40 or 50 clips. So I'd probably just use that money to outsource to an editor who can up the quality of what I'm putting out and hopefully send more traffic there. And $1,000, that's probably like 2 months worth if you get some editor of work overseas or something. So that'd be really cool.
Absolutely. Well, Byron, we appreciate you coming on here and for allowing us to ask you these questions. We're happy for you. Really stoked that your podcast is blowing up and that you're able to leverage TikTok into this big organic growth. So if the people listening really liked what you had to say and want to check you out, where should we send them?
Just probably my Instagram's easiest, which is just Byron__Dempsey. And from there, you've got the link in bio and it's got access to the podcast, the TikTok, everything you need just from Instagram. It's probably the easiest. Or if you just search Driven Young Podcast on Instagram, that's everything you need is there. I'm very Googleable. So if you just search my name or the podcast, you'll find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for watching this interview. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe to our channel right here on YouTube. And if you feel like you learned something, share this episode on social media to help us grow our audience as well.